Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley.
That's right.
Warning.
You've already entered.
Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report.
You're already
with
here.
Brad Binkley.
I am your host, Brad Binkley. This is the propaganda report. And we've got good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the country, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. This is the propaganda report. As I said, I am Brad Binkley, and we're going to be talking today about a handful of things. It's going to be a brief but information-filled show. I was compelled to do a show at this time in the day because we have an update in the ongoing saga of the missing or dead UFO-related scientist, the PSYOP, as I call it. A story that has not only gone mainstream, but is now being investigated by the FBI, the Department of Energy, the Department of War, and the Republican-led House Oversight Committee. So there must be something there, right? Before we get to it, though, I would like to talk about something a little more relatable to all of us commoners. Aquatic drug abuse. We've all heard of cocaine sharks, but what many of us have not heard of are cocaine salmon. That is until now. Because researchers have revealed that salmon in the Atlantic Ocean exposed to cocaine in water, obviously, swim faster and at longer distances. They can maintain that endurance more than those that go without. That's how it's worded, by the way. Salmon exposed to cocaine in the water swim longer distances than those that go without. This, according to the study released this week. It was a joint research study, actually, that was conducted by scientists at Australia's Griffin University and Swedish University of Agriculture Sciences. This was a multi-country joint research study, probably highly funded, that found that salmon exposed to cocaine swim twice as far as those that go without. Those poor salmon that go without. Doesn't seem fair, does it? These salmon, they don't live a privileged life, and they have to go without cocaine, and they're going to be eaten by sharks faster. What's the whole thing? You don't have to be faster than the bear. You just got to be faster than the people you're with. I think this holds true here. These salmon, drug abuse, it shouldn't be celebrated anywhere, really. But in the deep seas, it seems to be a survival skill for salmon. Either you snort some cocaine off of another salmon's dick, or you're getting swallowed up by a shark. Stat. I know they don't have dicks, salmons. Well, I assume they don't. I don't know what fish have. Milt? Is that what a salmon has? Snort some blow off another salmon's milt, or you will be eaten first by a shark. Here's how they did the research. Researchers took 105 wild Atlantic salmon from Sweden's Lake Vättern and exposed them to both cocaine and gibberish, benzoyliogonina. I'm not going to sound that out. Benzoyliogonine. That's what it is, which is what they use to detect cocaine. So they put all that in this controlled area And then they track the movements of this salmon. This sounds like something I would have done in college. What do you guys want to do tonight? What if we got some salmon and we threw them in a fish tank and poured a bunch of blow in it? And we see which one swims faster. And we do another tank with no blow. Maybe we throw some weed in there. Who knew that your ideas when you were stoned or drunk in college could have gotten you maybe millions of dollars worth of research funding as a Swedish scientist or American scientist? We study things stupid like this all the time too. They forced these salmon into being drug addicts is what they did. It's like what they did with cocaine and African Americans, kind of. Except this is a controlled study. Maybe that was a controlled study. I don't know. The researchers found that the river dwellers exposed to the drugs traveled 1.9 times further than their clean living control cousins. That's a nice way to put it. Quote, the idea of cocaine affecting fish might seem surprising. No, it doesn't actually seem surprising. But the reality, the researcher said, is that wildlife is already being exposed to a wide range of human-derived drugs every day because drugs pass over the ocean in boats. He continues by saying the unusual part is not the experiment. So he's trying to defend the ridiculousness of the experiment. It's what's already happening in our waterways. This guy probably whacks off in the waterways also. This guy probably was paid $1 million to do a study about how his semen causes salmon to sleep 15 minutes longer than other salmon. Really, he's just looking for a reason to get paid to whack it in the Atlantic Ocean. The researcher said that our study shows that drugs are not only a societal issue, but also a concrete environmental challenge, of course. Next thing you know, these cocaine salmon researchers are going to find are banging too many hookers and blowing all their money day trading. The study did comment on crack use, as it found that while the use of crack has not been a problem in the Atlantic Ocean, it has been prevalent in the Black Sea. On to the next story. All right. You have these stories that come out. It's just, they look for news and they put this stuff out there that has clickbait, and I clicked on it because I think it's funny. I don't know how that impacts people's lives. Other than maybe knowing that if you send a brick of cocaine over the ocean and it gets lost at sea and you're thinking, I wasted my money. Maybe there's a little bit of solace in the fact that, no, you didn't waste your money. You're like Santa Claus for a bunch of salmon. You saved the lives of a bunch of salmon. And for some people, that might be meaningful. Others might be, man, I wanted to do that blow. I wanted to sell that blow. But for a few, it might be, you know what? At least those salmon are going to swim away from those sharks faster and have more endurance. I'm okay with that. But if the shark has cocaine also, does it? I don't know. If all of the sea life is on blow, then I think it's only a matter of time before the octopus take over the planet. Do we know if it affects their hearts? Are they having heart attacks? Does it have any negative effect on them? Because this study seems to suggest that cocaine only has a positive effect on the salmon. What's the negative effect If there is none, we better keep that blow away from them if we hope to maintain top status on this earth. At least we think we are maintaining it based on what our visual or our five senses are able to touch, feel, see, taste, smell. We don't really know. We don't know what's outside those senses. What's up, guys? What's up, Ryan? Have I checked out the conspirators' hierarchy, the story of the Committee of the 300? I can't remember the guy's name who did the Committee of 300 book, but salmon and cocaine. I didn't have that on my bingo card. Yeah, so I have. I can't remember the guy's name. I watched a speech that a guy who wrote a book about the Committee of 300, and I thought it was great. It's like an old school. John Coleman, that's right. Yeah, I have seen that, and I have read his book. And it's pretty. It's a good one for anybody. Anybody who is listening, you want the Committee of 300. John Coleman, watch his speech, and I believe he's got some material he's published on it. It just kind of shows the grid of the powers that be and the people pulling the strings and what it all leads back to. It's a very interesting subject. It's like one of those first things I delved into as a baby conspiracy theorist years and years ago, actually. Maybe I need a refresher on it. All right. So moving into the ongoing story about the missing scientist. And I think that you shared with me, El Hombre. I believe you shared with me some of the videos of the missing scientist and the story of what's his name? The guy who was on Ancient Aliens. I got it right here. David Wilcock, who died. Well, I don't like when anybody dies. I mean, it sucks when anybody dies, whether I like them or dislike them. The Club of Rome is John Coleman Club of Rome. Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, so I'm going to show a video that was going around of a woman who died in 2023 or 2022, Amy Eskridge, which I talked about last week. But some videos came out of her that made people believe that there's more to it than maybe I thought there was last week. And so I will share that with you guys. That's the wrong thing. All right. Hold on one second. Let me get all my... Okay. This is a video. I'm just going to play it and then I'm going to comment on it. On the left, you see a picture of her. Then you see her hands, which look red from kind of the wrist up. And then there is a video next to it.
My hands have been burned to hell and back as I've been typing. Because you can beam me through there and through there. And you can get a 3D image of what I'm typing. Because this computer doesn't have a Wi-Fi card. You can't hack it.
Yeah, her hands while she's typing, and I don't know when she took the photo versus when the typing's going on, but the photo shows hands far more red than the video shows.
But you can maybe get a 3D image of me typing. So like we just did that and did that.
So the camera showed her windows, her chimney, her door, all barricaded because she had been expressing that she was afraid for her life.
As an act of as an act of pure desperation. And guess what? I feel better immediately. Like, my hands still burn because there's damage. But it's like my body relaxed when we barricaded.
So the suggestion here, and this is where it goes, this is where questioning should heighten, in my opinion. But what she is suggesting is that her hands that were bright red in the first photo, because she barricaded her door with what looks like ottomans and couches and her chimney, that blocked some of the radiation that was being sent with a directed energy weapon, and that made her hands instantly, seemingly, maybe not instantly, but pretty rapidly, go from what appeared to be bright red to what looks like normal in this video.
And it was like, oh, relaxed when we barricaded.
Well, I can't understand what the person in the background is saying. Can anybody decipher that?
And it was like, oh, like relief, like immediately. My hands have been burned to hell and back.
So this video, and I know there's a longer video. Oh, the video froze. Is it back? Okay, good. Sorry. Yeah, looks like it's here. I don't know what was going on with this woman. I know that she worked with her dad, who also worked with in a similar field, and that her dad has come out and said that he doesn't think that there was any foul play with her death. They keep referencing her father and how he also worked on anti-gravity technology, allegedly. But they don't follow that thread and say, he has said that there was no foul play in her death. She said that she said that she wasn't suicidal in some post. And I don't know the date of those posts. What I see here, there's a bigger narrative going on, and I want to point something out here. And I'm not trying to shame. I'm just pointing out, if you watch her videos, she talks about drinking a lot. Like in her videos, there's a frequent thread about her talking about drinking. We all have a drink from time to time. I'm not trying to criticize that. I have a drink from time to time. But what I do notice here in this video, I'm going to make it a little bit slower. All right, you see above her hand right there. That is a tiny, like, hotel liquor bottle. That's the liquor. That's the type of bottle that alcoholics drink with. It is, because you can get rid of them quickly. You can hide them. And then you go over here. And you look right here at her video. And there's other stuff on the table that I tried to look at too. That's tough. And maybe, if you're under this type of pressure, there's a wine bottle next to her table. There's like a wine bottle underneath her table. I'm not trying to shame anyone for anything. But what I'm pointing out is she came off to me as an alcoholic in the first video I watched her. That doesn't mean that she is. I might be primed to see that where it's not. I'm aware of that. Because if you are around that and you see that, then you might be more inclined to see it where it's not. But I think we're being conned. I think we're being psyoped. And this is a woman who they could interview her father. They could bring her father. They could call him. They could talk to him, but they just reference him. And they don't say what he said, because what he said undermines their narrative. Now, maybe he got to. I'm not suggesting that the powers that be, whoever can, wouldn't eliminate somebody if that person was about to find some sort of technology that was going to undermine all of their ability to cash in on oil, to cash in on the way we power our homes, Like anti-gravity, it's definitely, if somebody discovers anti-gravity, it's going to be confiscated and kept private. They'd be stupid not to. If somebody created an invisibility cloak, they're not going to let that go mainstream. They're going to use it for themselves. So I'm not discounting that. But I'm also not discounting the alternative explanations here. And from what I've seen from this woman, it hasn't been the credibility. She talks about this information, put it out there, and I know there's videos of her talking about putting it out there. I'm not saying that there's not something there, but I'm also saying that we shouldn't just believe this outright, because it feels far more like a PSYOP designed to get people to be afraid and to comply. Why? I don't know why. I don't know why. For promo for Spielberg's new movie Disclosure coming out in June. Because guess who's going to benefit the most out of all of this? Steven Spielberg. Probably not why this is going on, but he's definitely going to cash in, and it's definitely going to get more people to the theaters to see that movie than it would have. Also, fear of Iran and China. This stuff will ultimately probably be blamed on them. There will probably be inconclusive but suggestive evidence to say, well, we think Iran or China was behind this, which will unify a war effort against them. In the same way many of us have seen people who voted for Trump because he said he would not start a war with Iran, he would not get into foreign wars, now saying we need to obliterate Iran because of what he's saying now. That's how these narratives work. You find these loosely connected stories and you weave a narrative together, and the way they talk about it, they're investigating it to give some credibility to it. Most of these cases are completely disconnected. And the statistical anomaly is not there. This is within the range of the number of people that would die in these fields. That doesn't mean that that's not. If they're going to get rid of somebody, they would make it seem like you can't. They would do it in a way where you can't find it. So I understand that argument. I do. I understand both sides of the argument. So I'm not trying to, just dismiss anything. I'm not. But this just seems like bait. It seems like conspiracy bait. And they've done a lot of conspiracy bait in the past 6 months, since Charlie Kirk died especially, to try and make us look stupid. They weaponize it, in my opinion. AstroTurf PSYOP Society. That's a good term. Yeah. I don't know why this. Yeah, I don't know why the video was tweaking out here. Yeah, so I don't know what happened. I can't know what happened. And I'm not saying because somebody has a tiny bottle of alcohol on their desk and a bottle of wine on the floor that they weren't driven to that because of whatever's going on with them. But you look at this woman's house, and she claims that these red hands of hers went away because she put this couch next to her on her. Like, you see that right there. There's an ottoman, there's a little tiny TV, and the fireplace. That's all it takes to make your hands go from red to normal. Now, I don't know what's going on with her. Maybe they killed her. Maybe they didn't. But the evidence we've been presented with is evidence of very little, despite what people are claiming it is evidence of. Questioning the narrative coming from the government and the powers that be is always the best thing to do, in my opinion, even if you like them. I like Trump. I have to question him more because I like him. And the fact that they're taking this seriously adds to the reason why I am very skeptical of it. I mean, look at her fingers there. It looks like a suntan. It looks fake to me. I'm sorry. It just looks fake. Maybe it might not be, but that's my bias coming through here. I don't like being tricked. I don't care who's trying to trick me. I don't want to be tricked. I'm going to be over skeptical of everything, because that's the only way we survive and have our ability to think independently survive in the world we live in. Especially if it's right on the nose with something I might believe. I think aliens exist. But I don't think they're talking to our government. Give me a break. On that same note, another story that has popped up and been tied to this is the death of David Wilcock, who is a guy who appeared on Ancient Aliens a whole bunch. I think he had claimed to be in touch with aliens. He's somebody who friends of mine used to send me videos of a lot, and I would roll my eyes because I didn't believe a word of what he said, because it was never evidence-based. Does it mean it's untrue? No. I mean, of course not. You can't prove anything untrue that somebody claims, a personal experience that they have. But it was one of those things where this is playing into your desire to want to believe. And it was kind of often ridiculous, some of the claims. I'm not trying to criticize the dead. It was just someone who I never found credible. And now he died. And I'm sorry that I don't like when anybody dies. But he's now being linked to this disappearing and dying scientist. All of the ones previously were somehow connected to the UFO, or not the UFO, the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. Now we're going beyond that. He's not connected to that at all. He's actually, he researches in an arena that group made fun of and opposed. But now we're connecting even that. And here, the story that they have released anyway is that he called 911 and there was a well-being check sent to the house, and police showed up, and he had a gun outside and he shot himself. They're still investigating it. It's a weird story. There's no doubt about it. But he wasn't actually revealing, in my opinion, evidence-based claims. Some of these others, they were working with organizations and producing work that you could look at the evidence of, and even if you didn't believe it necessarily, I don't know. This isn't somebody who was onto something that they would want to kill, is what I'm saying. I'm sorry he's dead. I want to show you a comment of someone who knows more about him than I do. And I know that he does good research, and I'll have to research this more. I'm well aware that I don't know as much as I need to know about all of this, because I'm not ruling out that something weird is going on. But I just think we're being baited. It just feels like a PSYOP. I don't know, but I know no. I can't use that. I hate that phrase. I can't just use this. So here's Derek Bros, his comment about David Wilcock's death. I couldn't watch most of his stuff. I tried to watch. I would watch Ancient Aliens because I thought it was funny, but it just, the leaps to conclusions, there was never. You guys know how I look at things. I believe, but I feel the best way to prove to the critics that are going to come hard after us is by being more evidence-based than they are. And I believe that that leads us to the strongest arguments that they cannot defeat. And if we accept anything less than the strongest arguments, then we are vulnerable to having our characters assassinated by them and to being made to look like fools and being set up, because they set us up. They set up conspiracy theorists to look like fools, to jump to conclusions that they know they will then provide evidence to disprove, so they can then say, look how dumb they are. That is what they do. That's what they're doing right now. On a number of topics. All right, is that on screen? No, it's not. Here's what Derek said. Make that bigger. And I don't agree with everything Derek says, but Derek is a good researcher, and Derek knows more about this guy. But this was his experience with him. Derek said, I know it's been confirmed that well-known grifter and liar David Wilcock is dead. I don't want to dance on his grave, but Wilcock was one of the worst purveyors of fake news and fake saviors since at least the early 2000s. And then he posts a couple links to his Conscious Resistance website where he wrote articles about Wilcox. And then he said if he was struggling with mental health issues, perhaps it was because he was such a pervasive liar. And of course, now the conspiracy theories will begin claiming someone took him out when he was nothing more than a charlatan. He blocked me because I called him out. Then he shows an image that David Wilcox has him blocked. I don't know what their personal relationship or interactions are. I have no idea. But that sentiment is exactly the sentiment I had. I didn't have any hate towards him, but when I was sent videos that he did, I rolled my eyes and I thought, what a grifter. Ryan says that Michael Aquino stated in the Mind War, I'll make it a little bigger so I can see it, that he said to use parapolitics and conspiracy culture as a subversion to the truth. Everyone should read or browse Mind War. That's accurate. That's completely accurate. It all fits the World Economic Forum trust initiative to destroy the trust of the alternative media community that gained the trust of people during the pandemic. And this is how they get it back, is they make us look like fools. I think that's part of it. So El Hombre says, yes, you sent me the case of Joshua LeBlanc, who worked on nuclear propulsion projects, died in a fiery crash over the summer. I don't know if I saw that one yet. Here, let me see if I can pull that one up. I knew that there was going to be more of these that were tied to it. And if there's something there, I don't want to shut it down. I'm not, but I'm also want to be measured about it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll play this, the one you sent me. I'll put this up here. All right, so this says that El Hombre shared with me. A NASA nuclear scientist was found deceased in his Tesla after colliding with a guardrail, leaving his body so burned he was completely unrecognizable, according to a new report from Fox News. A 29-year-old LeBlanc, who worked on nuclear propulsion projects, died in a fiery crash over the summer. His family at the time said they feared he had been abducted when he left his phone and wallet at home. According to According to the data on the Tesla, his vehicle was sat at Huntsville, Alabama, at the airport for 4 hours the morning of his death. His car was later found that afternoon. Authorities have not told Fox News. They have now told Fox News that the car collided with a guardrail before slamming into trees and it burst into flames. They said it was completely uncharacteristic of him not to communicate with them and that it was not part of his plan to travel west that day. What does that mean? LeBlanc had an impressive resume, according to his LinkedIn profile. He worked at NASA for 5 years, over 5 years. He led a team for NASA's space nuclear propulsion and control maturation, and he then became a leader of their demonstration rocket for agile cislunar operation and nuclear thermal propulsion engine, according to Fox. Here's the
area
video.
where he graduated from Catholic High and later attended.
Make that a little smaller so you guys can see it.
Joshua LeBlanc grew up in New Iberia, but he was working in Huntsville at NASA as an electrical engineer. His family reported him missing earlier this week. His car was found Tuesday afternoon, 2 hours away from his home, with no signs of him anywhere. Joshua LeBlanc was well known in New Iberia, where he graduated from Catholic High and later attended and graduated from UL Lafayette. His family tells me he last communicated with them at 4:32 a.m. Tuesday. They also told me he never showed up for a job that he loved that morning as well. What we do know about his disappearance is this. Alabama authorities did track his blue Tesla Model 3. According to the Tesla car data, it stopped for 4 hours at the Huntsville International Airport, which is about 12 minutes from his apartment. The data shows his car left the airport, traveled west on Alabama back roads before crashing in Florence, Alabama. Tuesday, 2 p.m., the car was discovered and a body inside, but the body was found burned beyond recognition, according to family members. But the case has only raised more questions. LeBlanc's phone, his personal belongings, and even his dog were all left behind in his Huntsville apartment. Family members say the detour and disappearance don't match anything Joshua had planned for that day, and now they believe he may have been abducted from his home. Joshua.
So they say even his dog there. Why do you say even his dog? If he's like, that's not odd if he doesn't take his dog to work. Did they not say at the beginning of that video that they found the car? Did I hear that wrong? I'm going to play that again. I'm sorry. Because there's something I must have misheard.
LeBlanc grew up in New Iberia, but he was working in Huntsville at NASA as an electrical engineer. His family reported him missing earlier this week. His car was found Tuesday afternoon, 2 hours away from his home, with no signs of him anywhere. Joshua LeBlanc was well known in New Iberia, where he graduated from Catholic High and later attended and graduated from UL Lafayette. His family tells me he last communicated with them at 4:32 a.m. Tuesday. They also told me he never showed up for a job that he loved that morning as well. What we do know about his disappearance is this. Alabama authorities did track his blue Tesla Model 3. According to the Tesla car data, it stopped for 4 hours at the Huntsville International Airport, which is about 12 minutes from his apartment. The data shows his car left the airport, traveled west on Alabama back roads before crashing in Florence, Alabama. Tuesday, 2 p.m., the car was discovered and a body inside, but the body was found burned beyond recognition, according to family members. But the case has only raised more questions.
So the body was found burned beyond recognition. And that was, Ryan, I believe that was recently, per your question. Oh, no, it's July 2025. So that was July 2025. It's a great question. Once you find a pattern, can you go back and find other things that might have been part of that pattern but declared as explained in other ways? Yeah, sure. But also, and I said this, I actually predicted this. I said they will find more that they, sorry, I'm having back issues if you see me wincing. They will find more and they will rope it in to the story to fit the narrative. The evidence on this stuff, that's the challenge with this stuff. because we don't have access to all of the information surrounding people's death like this. Many of these, like that girl's dad, he says it's not, there's nothing suspicious about it all. Should we discount that? Should we just assume he got to? I don't know. I think we should keep our minds open to all explanations. But I think either way, we're going to continue to see this. I think the narrative is there. I think it's obvious. So I think we will see more of these because it has been decided that this is going to be a narrative. The other argument could be that, well, it is true. What if it is true? What does it mean? Seriously, what? So my position is that it's a PSYOP designed that's unrelated. That these deaths are unrelated. And they're being linked together, and there's not a statistical anomaly, but they're being linked together and made to be seen to be out of the ordinary for the purpose of pushing either a fear of China and Russia to unite the country around a World War III or the development of weapons, the military-industrial complex effort, or a similar Project Bluebeam effort, or like I said earlier, maybe an offshoot, maybe also part of it, to pump up the marketing for that disclosure movie, which fits all of this theme. One of the reasons I lean that way is because I've seen how much of a PSYOP all of this alien stuff has been since 2017. And this fits right in there. Doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean that they don't abduct or kill scientists, especially if they have high level of clearance and information that's useful. That, of course, that stuff happens. And maybe it's happening here. It just seems too on the nose, all of it. When one story comes out after another, and outside of David Wilcox, which he's completely unrelated to these people. I'm not opposed to the narrative, but I'm skeptical of it because I don't want to be wooed in by it. Hardcore crack hours. Maybe hardcore crack hours. That's a good question. Why am I streaming at 4 in the morning? I stream at 4 in the morning often, actually. So maybe I got hardcore crack going on. I think this is what Steve Bannon calls the flooding the zone saturation. That's, yeah, kind of. You got my back. I appreciate that. That was a callback you made to the earlier story about the cocaine in the ocean. I do wonder why Steve Bannon doesn't get much scrutiny right now with his. If anybody should be being questioned about the Epstein files, it should be Steve Bannon. Well, I'm a night owl. I stay up pretty late. And I thought about maybe going to bed early, but I'm the kind of guy when there's something that's on my mind to talk about, I want to go ahead and get it out there. And so I thought I'd go ahead and do it. And I've been resting a lot because I hurt my back. So I've been sleeping too much recently. So I think that I'm a little more. I don't think I would be able to go to sleep anyway. I don't know what's going on. Interesting to follow. Question everything. I certainly hope they're not killing scientists. I think they're lying to us personally. This woman, I feel bad for this woman looking at these videos, though. This Etheridge woman. I feel like so she tells a story about how she knew she was being followed or surveilled. And the story, something like she knew when her and her ex-boyfriend saw that there was a car with tinted windows. It was like a BMW or Mercedes or something. in the parking lot, and then she knew they were being surveilled when they saw a guy. They talked out loud about how there was no license plate, and then somebody came out of another apartment and put a license plate on it. And then he came and he dropped a license plate on his porch, and she was like, he did that to show us. Yeah, we'll change it. And I'm just like, did you go talk to the guy? Did you go to the guy's house who you assumed was, because that's what was weird to me, is the belief that someone who lived next door was, go talk to him. And that never came up in the video. And she was like, that's how I knew that I was always being surveilled. And then she explained it as she would see a similar car that had a different license plate every time. And that feels like a story that's weaved together in someone's mind who's convinced of that, who's convinced to only see that. Because if you see a similar car driving in a general area of you, you can convince yourself it's the same car if you've convinced yourself that the license plate's being changed every time by this person down the hallway from you. Go talk to the person. And the fact that they ignore what her father says here, not discounting maybe he got to. I understand. But tell the full story. That's why I don't like it. Because none of these news publications, the Fox News, the White House, CNN, any of them, none of them tell the full story, which includes her father saying there's nothing there. Now, if you want to say that he's been got to, fine. But tell the full story. Don't censor it to only convey the narrative you're trying to convey. That's what pisses me off. If they were telling the full story and then saying, but here's also why it's still suspicious and why he might not be right about that, I would be more open to it. But the fact that they cut that out of the story tells me that they're trying to push something that they don't actually believe. That's what it tells me. Because that's what you do. That's what you do when you want to convey a narrative that you might not believe, is you cut off the parts that undermine it. Shit pisses me off, man. All right, I got time for one more thing here. One more thing here. The Southern Poverty Law Center. You guys have seen the story, I'm sure. Of course, the Southern Poverty Law Center was funding hate crimes, or you know, I don't want to quote funding hate crimes allegedly. Here's the headline: 8 hate group leaders, including KKK, Imperial Wizard, and neo-Nazi, got millions from the Southern Poverty Law Center as part of informant scheme, the DOJ says. Duh. This is the same thing the protest people do, that politicians do, that all of these people do. When their influence and their profit depends on a problem existing and continuing to exist, it is not in their interest, even if they say it is, to eliminate that problem. It is in their interest to ensure that that problem persists. And therefore, it's in their best interest to make sure that people are out there doing the things that they claim to want to stop. That is the most obvious thing that's been going on. I've been talking about this tactic on this show for over 5 or 6 years. The Bolsheviks write about it. Saul Alinsky writes about it. This is the most go-to tactic in politics. Pretend to stop something that you only profit from if it continues existing. Well, if they were truly trying to stop it, then their goal would be to make themselves obsolete. That's not their goal. This is the most obvious story to ever be exposed. I'm glad it was exposed. And I believe it because they haven't denied it. Continuing, the Southern Poverty Law Center is accused of funneling millions of dollars to at least 8 leaders of members of hate groups, of course, including the... I literally said this after January 6th. I've said that for years about January 6th. Many others did as well. It was obvious. They had a Vice documentary. It was obviously provocateur. There was obviously informants. What's funny is that people won't believe it still, or they'll justify it on the other side, which they're doing already. I'm just trying to think what my friends who are progressives are going to say about it. Actually, I know, because I can see I can go on, what's the threads? I can go on threads and see what all my progressive friends are going to say about it, which will all be stupid shit. They'll say a bunch of stupid shit. Stupid shit, stupid shit. They funneled millions to 8 leaders and members of hate groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, Imperial Wizard, and the Ku Klux Klan Imperial Wizard, which David Duke was one of them, and a fundraiser for a neo-Nazi group to act as informants. This is not a government agency. They can't, as you've heard, prosecute people. So they say that. Yeah, the government does that also, and they do. They do that corruptly also. One nonprofit leader likened this to paying an arsonist to help put out a fire. It's a good analogy. The Alabama-based nonprofit was charged by the Department of Justice with wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering conspiracy on Tuesday for allegedly hiding from donors the fact that it doled out more than $3 million over the course of a decade to, quote, field sources tasked with infiltrating violent extremist groups. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanchard said, well, here's what I say. All those groups who they didn't tell are stupid. They're stupid. Not the groups, the donors. The donors who gave money to them and didn't realize this was happening are stupid. Or they knew what they were doing and they were also part of this. And they should be investigated. That's more likely, in my opinion. Some of them are dumb. Some of them are idiots. They're sucking their thumbs and plugging their buttholes with their other thumb. The others, probably in on it. These people. America's first legal president. See, this is that. America First legal president, Gene Hamilton. He can't call himself that because that's going to lose his credibility in anybody who might believe him by saying that. It doesn't mean what he's about to say is wrong. It just means that everybody wants to be divisive with their titles. America First legal president, Gene Hamilton, a former DOJ official, told the Post Wednesday it's unprecedented for a tax-exempt nonprofit to use donor funding to pay informants in violent extremist groups. Not unless they want you to. It's actually probably not unprecedented. Happens all the time, most likely. Definitely actually happens all the time. It's called plausible deniability. Dipshit. I've seen some leftists talking about, this is a continuing quote from this guy. Seen some chatter on social media and elsewhere saying, oh, this is a commonly used tactic among the governments for years of infiltrating organizations. He said, that's one thing that well, that's what I was just saying. The right does this too. It's not like the right doesn't do this. They all do it. That's the trick if you think only the left does it. Everyone does it in power. They all do it. Everyone acts like they're moral and playing by the rules when they have this level of influence. Almost all of them are full of shit. And that mentality is what protects you the most from deception. That's power, that mentality. That is being empowered, that mentality. Because you see the con before the con gets you. And you can do anything when you see the con before the con captures you. Because the The con works people up. It gets people engulfed in it. It gets people focusing only on that con and not what they can be doing. You see it, you do what you want. It's power. He said, continuing, and this is a good analogy also, that it would be like if a MAGA group was secretly giving money to DEI officials to set up more DEI programs while raising money to fight DEI. And then you have this person from the founder of StopAntisemitism.com said that the SPLC's work fighting anti-Semitism appeared to have fallen off in recent years. He was infuriated by the allegations. It's unimaginable to us that a civil rights group would gin up fake bigotry in order to solicit donations from concerned Americans. This is what they've obviously been doing. I used to point out these fake anti-Semitism stories after Trump was first elected. It would always be accused on MAGA people or right-leaning people. Then it would always turn out to be some activist from some communist network, probably funded by this group. And they would just forget about the story. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It means they're trying to manifest it, because America is not a racist country. America is very diverse. This illusion of racism and division, and we are the most open country in the world. It's crazy that half of the country has been convinced that we are bigoted and racist. Look around the world, you idiots. It's crazy. See, these people like this only profit and only gain power by ginning up a bunch of bullshit that a bunch of pink-haired furries will suck out of their asshole. The Southern Poverty Law Center CEO Brian Fair said in a statement Tuesday that the organization was being politically targeted and claimed that the Trump administration was weaponizing the DOJ. Fair maintained the payments were for confidential informants, so he admits it. They were for confidential informants to gather credible intelligence on extremely violent groups. So he admits it, is what that is. Among the informants, this is the best part, among the ones identified but not named in the indictment is one, an imperial wizard of the United Clans of America. The Southern Poverty Law Center was funding an imperial wizard of the United Clans of America. And this is the same group this person they funded is from, who they themselves said in 2013 were responsible for a 1963 Baptist church bombing that killed 4 children. And they funded an individual from there. Several other people in leadership roles of extremist groups were covertly being bankrolled by them. The indictment alleges, so we don't know for sure, I guess, that there was an informant that was part of an online leadership chat group who organized the 2017 Unite the Right, the rally in Charlottesville. And this person ended up posting racist comments at the Southern Poverty Law Center's behest, while also coordinating rides for others to attend the Charlottesville rally. Like I said, this was the most obvious PSYOP rally, infiltrated rally that's ever been seen. And this is why Joe Biden ran for president, he said. He said he saw Trump say the neo-Nazi thing, which was a complete lie. It was fake. Everything they told about him was fake about that. They edited the videos, and for years, it was unbelievable. It's really extraordinary how easily that's been forgotten, how intentionally malicious the entire media apparatus was to propagate that lie. And now we see that what any of us actually paying attention already knew, that it was provocateur by the Southern Poverty Law Center. In total, the Southern Poverty Law Center paid this informant, Charlottesville informant, $270,000 between 2015 and 2013. And then there was a veteran informant, continuing with the list of informants, from the Neo-Nazi National Alliance, was paid $1 million over that same period and assisted the Southern Poverty Law Center by stealing 25 boxes of documents from the violent extremist group, the headquarters of the violent extremist group. I guess they're talking about the Unite the Right or the Klan, one of those two. And the guy who stole it for them was a fundraiser for this neo-Nazi group. And the records formed the basis, the ones that he stole, formed the basis of a story featured on the Southern Poverty Law Center's Hate Watch blog. So they got him, they paid him $1 million over these period of years to steal a bunch of documents from a neo-Nazi group that he worked for. And then they used it on their Hate Watch blog. They paid a second informant at the same organization $6,000. This guy got lowballed here. To take the fall for the theft. That's hilarious. That's so funny. It is. $6K. The one guy gets $1 million to steal the stuff, and then the other guy gets, we'll give you $6K to take the fall. It should be the other way around. Guy got ripped off. Another informant received more than $300,000 between 2014 and 2020 while serving as a National Socialist Movement officer and a member of the Aryan Nation affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club. And then another former chairman of the National Alliance was paid $140K from the Southern Poverty Law Center between 2016 and 2023, while also being featured as part of the nonprofit's Extremist Files. So they paid a guy who they featured on their Extremist Files. A former director of the Aryan Nations, who was also a member of the Ku Klux Klan, was also featured in their Extremist Files, despite getting $70,000 between 2014 and 2016. That is so hilarious. Look at their Extremist Files now. There's probably a couple of them getting that cash to be on there. I'm not even going to go. You guys can go through all these. There's like a ton of these. The Southern Poverty Law Center did not return a request for comment. Oh my God. It's not surprising. It's so unsurprising, but also so hilarious. Also, I don't know. You missed a lot. What word spell? Umbre, you said you also sent me news of a former AI executive. It says Sam Altman is in the building portals and summons. I've seen that story. I haven't read it yet. Maybe I'll look in that tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks for sending me all those, tagging me with all those articles, by the way. I do appreciate that. And I do try to follow up on them. So I will check that out tomorrow. But that's all I wanted to do tonight. I wanted to get these stories out. And if you guys want to get access to the subscriber-only content that Sam Tripoli, Austin McCard, and I do called Whatever This Is, go to patreon.com/propaganda report, subscribe to the lowest tier, or go to propreport.locals.com to get access to that subscriber-only content. And you also, if you're listening on audio, you get access to this show ad-free. I take out the ads for subscribers. You can find all my links on propagandafight.com or at Freedom Act Radio on X, links in bio, no feet pics. And that's all we're going to be doing this evening, but I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon, evening. Thanks for tuning in, for chatting, guys. I always appreciate the late night chats. You guys have a fantastic rest of y'all's day.